today we have a guest, and he's been on the show before, Rais, and he's going to talk to us about all things AI.
Thanks for having me on. My name's Rais Mohammed. So I deal with internet law issues. So representing content creators, dealing with, online infringement of their content. I deal with deep fakes. I deal with revenge porn issues. Basically, all the things that you as a creator might deal with online, we handle. And we're able to practice nationally depending on what the issue is. And we just love to help the creators and protect their stuff. And that's what we do.
All right, so tell us what you're seeing on your end from a legal aspect and from the cases that you're seeing when it comes to some of this AI. But I guess there's the technology with AI, and then them taking copies and the videos. And I've been the source of this, and we've all have been the source of this, where it's like they take our pictures and the videos, and they basically throw it through large language model, and voila, we have this whole new character of Mrs. Poindexter. And
yeah, here's Annabelle, but with a fake face, so it's harder to detect.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
That's a big one. Is they just put completely fake faces, and I don't know if that's really AI or what they're doing, how to do that, but it's disturbing when you see yourself and that's you. Like, that's my bedroom, but not my face.
Yeah,
So
the bedroom one is actually even wilder. I didn't think of that. That would be
creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting right now with artificial intelligence. We're seeing everything and anything, because basically give people a tool to create new things, give them a little bit of softcore porn or hardcore porn, and man, people have a field day with this stuff. It's just, people spend hours and hours on this, but it's too easy today for someone to use amateur tools, right? And I mean, Telegram and Signal have plugins now where if you share images through those apps, that you can get a plugin that will use AI to generate some sort of completely different nude rendition of the person.
Really? And those apps are already some of the most garbage, bottom of the barrel apps in terms of they don't remove any content that violates.
Well, it's hard to find your content on those apps too.
It
is. You're saying Telegram, and what else was that?
Yeah, Telegram and Signal. Telegram specifically had bots, and I won't list them out for your viewers to play with, but I could talk to you guys about it.
We're not giving you guys any ideas.
Yeah, we're not giving you guys any ideas. But I mean, some of them were banned. Like the one, I'll tell you one that was banned. It was literally called bra off _bot. So you could upload a picture of somebody that would remove their bra.
But so is it just then estimating what it looks like under there? The AI is doing that? Okay. So it's not even real.
No, and that's the thing people need to understand is, generative AI is completely fabricated. But if you and I hadn't seen that person before, how would you know?
Right, we don't know. Exactly.
And so what we're seeing is the line blurred between reality and artificial intelligence, right? Completely fabricated images and video. And that's what makes this process daunting. Is to the public, this is as real as it could possibly be. And the most famous one, which was extravagant and it was exaggerated enough for people not to believe it. I mean, some people still believe the conspiracy that she leaked it and it, some of it was real and she blended it with fake, was the Taylor Swift debacle, right? With for those of you who follow her, she's having orgies with all these football players. She's nude. She's doing these salacious.
No, none of us follow her.
Well, it was big news. It was big news.
Well, yeah, we know that.
I did hear the news. We all, I think everyone. Yeah, here's what I wonder. So many people are sick of that. Do people even want to see that fake stuff? Like, come on, we have enough Taylor Swift.
Well, and you hit an interesting point, which is what this appeals to is the fantasy in people. Like, this is all fantasy stuff. It's the same reason why people watch like fantasy anime, porn or not porn, like just the whole concept of fantasy. There's something within our biology as humans that we love that stuff. It's very deep, it's very visceral
primal
to see some sort of.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting to me. So one thing that I've seen, and this is sort of in line with that, is like, so be a picture of me. Just say if I go take a picture in this dress standing up, and then later on I might find that picture on the internet, but with no dress. and the body underneath looks nothing like mine. And I'm like, oh, that's clearly AI because that's nothing what I look like. So then someone would see that picture and be like, oh, that's what she looks like. Well, no, it isn't. And you can actually verify that. But it's so weird because they're just making, it's like, it's not even resembles anything close to reality. And so it's just confusing people more and more who can't distinguish fake news or fake images or anything. It's like, what's real anymore? Nobody even knows.
And this is like in my profession on the legal side, we can kind of see the trajectory of where this started and where it's going. And the problem is the laws don't catch up fast enough, right? And
Right.
so, and the other thing is it has to hit a critical mass of people or important people enough to where it matters. Like when it happened to
Like Taylor Swift.
you know, she was in front of Congress, or this issue was in front of Congress. So all these old white men were trying to hear about pornography and pictures and like, should we even do anything about this? We kind of like this, right? I mean, they have no clue.
Right.
Have no clue. But me,
or they were like, wait, that wasn't real? We saw that.
now
we
they're
like
like,
that.
oh, I better delete that one off my phone. So, but the interesting thing is it's so prevalent, and you can just fish around on Reddit. You can go right now on Reddit and find all of these normal, average people. Maybe they're school teachers, maybe they are professionals of some sort, and people will swear that their nudes have leaked, and here are their nudes.
Right.
And it's generative AI. And to nerd out about generative AI, people criticize artificial intelligence saying it's not really intelligent, which is partially true because it's not creating anything, it's drawing from different things.
Right.
So if you gave AI no backend to draw from and you said create, it wouldn't know what to do. It's not.
It's an aggregator, sort of, right?
Exactly. So you're
no different than like a news account that all they do, they don't have anything original. They just repost other people's things.
In a way, correct. In a way. And in some way, it's like if you asked a kindergartner to look at a bunch of pictures of horses and draw it with a crayon, it's almost doing that. It's the kid's not thinking from their mind, right? They're looking at something and they're generating something from it. So it presents two problems. The first problem is people believe what they see, especially video. It can be scary.
Yeah.
It can be scary. It sounds like you. Maybe it's mixed with your real audio.
Right. We've seen that with Poindexter. There's fake AI videos of her.
Yeah, they've taken a scam video and basically repurposed it. And it's like them talking about like CBD gummies. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. But you could tell like it's not quite right because the voice is off.
Right. It's not good enough to fool us. But I bet it fooled some people.
Has. And I do think going back to like the generative AI, like when you can tell because there's a bunch of fake accounts, or not, they're not fake. They're actually real accounts on Instagram. And they're like mature women. But it's by, we'll say like AI generated like mature women, and they're amazing. I mean, these women are just like, they look like real mature women. They're not super like thin. They might some of them have wrinkles, but the hands you can always tell because the hands give it away.
Yeah,
they have not figured out that can't figure out how to like actually produce the hands where it doesn't look fake.
We saw that some of that stuff in one of the Kate Middleton videos, the one that was the one that was AI.
Don't get her started on
there's
this.
glitch. Well, no, I'm just saying there's glitches and tells, and so if you actually know to sort of think about looking for that stuff, you will notice it. But if you're just regular old average Joe or Sandy or whoever, regular people, they're just seeing something and they're like, oh wow, and they have no idea that it could be fake. We're more attuned to it because we are faked all the time.
I mean, most of these guys can't tell a very clearly fake Twitter or Instagram, so I don't really know how they're going to pick out anything AI.
Right? How do we help people? Because nobody's smart enough.
But they also fall for fake scams too. So I mean, you can't.
That's what we're saying.
They're
too dumb to figure it out. So where do we even go in terms of help? Well, I don't know. Is everything in the world just going to be a scam?
It could be. All right. I mean, but going back to what you were talking about earlier, though, Annabelle, if you have a picture of you, and even if they redo like using AI and put a different body on you, that's still your copyrighted image. Even if it's just like in your bedroom and they put a different person, that's still your copyrighted image. You can still get that taken down.
So I've wondered, because for us, like legally, our DMCA service is able to have images removed, even if it's got a fake face on it. and it's my body or whatever. Like they are able to do that. They are able to get pictures of my cat removed. But what is the from social media platforms? But what is the actual laws here? Like, what is out there to protect people in terms of these images?
This is a good topic. So it's a little bit of a blurry line. So we talked about copyright law is the obvious one, right? If somebody takes something that you did create, that you are the author of, and superimposes or modifies, then that would be considered under copyright law what we call a derivative work. So it's infringing, and you nailed it. A DMCA protocol should work, right? And a DMCA notice, you have to take it down. They have 10 days to respond. Otherwise, you file suit if they don't. But in other instances, somebody might contest it and say, well, I've altered it enough that it's no longer original. And in fact, or rather, I've created enough originality out of it that you don't even recognize it. I would still argue that most generative AI is infringing, right? I would say most of it is 100% infringement. So in addition to, DMCA stuff, there are criminal implications if it gets to pornographic levels, right? And so, the deep fake porns, and actually 10 states have laws that criminalize deep fake pornography. And it's sad it's only 10, but states usually move faster than our feds do, as most of us know. But
kids, 12-year-olds can still get married in a lot of states. So we're
that is a
way
very
behind
good
on a
point.
lot of things.
That is a very good point. And I want to know the names of people who tried to pass that statute. That's what I want to know. They need to be burned at the cross, as they say.
Yeah, guys, come on. We're way behind on a lot of things.
We are grossly behind. But surprisingly, Georgia, Hawaii, Texas, Virginia are 4 that come off the top of my, tip of my tongue that have non-consensual deep fake porn statutes. So it criminalizes it. But for average people, the truth of the matter is law enforcement doesn't do anything about it.
I love it because I think that's what creators need. There's a huge need for IP services out there for creators, and there's just not enough. And the creators I talk to, they don't, we all know, like the 3 of us know, but there's so many like internet creators across all different platforms, YouTube, Instagram, that just don't protect their IP. And it's just like, that's all you're doing is throwing money away.
Well,
throwing it away.
We've had quite a few recent inquiries, and I'm helping 2 creators right now who are dealing with like Netflix, and Netflix may not be the bad actor, but these indie publication companies, the indie producers that sell to them and license their content, may have taken stuff from their YouTube or Instagram page, and then it goes on some blockbuster Netflix special, and our guys get paid 0 for that. And so we then have to come in and negotiate a deal. And fortunately, even without a registered copyright, although you have less claims, you can still get a reasonable royalty for your content. So and some of it can be significant, like 50,000, 100,000, depending on how big that the video was on these streaming.
So how is it that not Instagram, but Netflix, their legal is not even aware of that?
So what ends up happening, and most people don't know this, but the way production works, right? Especially with a gigantic streaming platform like Netflix, is you have these indie producers, not Netflix productions, although you have Netflix productions, but the way to pass them is there's a contract that basically says, okay, indie producers, whatever content you were giving us, you are representing that you own it and you've done the clearances on the intellectual property. And so somebody from the production company generally drops the ball and just trusts what production does, and it comes in and there's a question. It's like, check the box. Did you secure IP rights? Yes. And they pass it down, and then somebody sees it. It's like, dude, that's my. I didn't get paid for that. Nobody talked to me. I've even seen situations where they will contact the creator, and the creator will just ignore them or even say no, and they'll use it anyway.
Oh, yeah. You see that even just like online when news organizations want to share someone's video of a breaking news thing, where they're like asking if they can use it. And some people say yes. Some people are like, pay them. There's always, and most people don't even notice.
With news,
until someone points it out.
With news, it's interesting because usually it falls into a fair use because it's newsworthy and it's or it's public domain, and they're trying to, they're not making money off the content. They're telling a story about it. There's some angle to it, blah, blah, blah. But I get your point.
Well, if you're using videos, like if you're, say, sharing a tweet and embedding it or something, that protects you as, right, because you're giving them credit for their work, right? Or no?
Well, that's an interesting question. Usually just giving credit is not enough. You have to still get
Okay.
permission from the rights holder. And
Okay.
we see this a lot with influencers, right? And so some of my clients are like, Race, I understand they said that like credit goes to me, but I didn't give them permission to even use that clip, especially if it's in tandem
Okay.
with some kind of promotion. Like if they're
Uh-huh.
self-promoting, or they're, what people love to do now is in a legal way, you can comment, right? So if you guys if Crystal has a video and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to make a legal commentary on this video, and I take her video and here's me in a box and here's Crystal,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah. I see a lot of those.
it's streaming and I'm commenting on it. Technically, you can do that legally, okay? Depending on the nature of the commentary. If I'm just sitting there and watching and streaming it and taking credit for mine, saying it's original, probably not going to work. And then
But if you do it as like a stitch or whatever, right? Isn't that
a stitch?
That's what a lot of people do.
And stitches are usually short, right? Like 30 seconds, a minute. And so generally creators don't care because it's commentary. Maybe it's commentary that is favorable to them and it's kind of proliferating their brand.
Right.
But there's a blurry line there. And so satire, commentary, public comments on other people's content, that stuff's usually not going to be infringement, right? But going back to deep fakes and revenge porn, one of you asked, I forget who it was, about your remedies, like what other things you can do about it. Defamation is actually an angle. I mean, if somebody's portraying themselves to be you or saying that this is, Crystal, and, I know it is, check out her content here. In addition to all the IP related issues, you could probably sue somebody who's publishing deep fakes for defamation. And that would get you damages.
I would think so too, because if that's something like, if they're taking my image or they're creating like a clone, right, an AI clone, and then my new AI clone's now doing type of content that I don't do and I don't approve of, now that would be damaging to my brand. I mean, huge damages, right?
Yeah, and there's within the same category of sort of reputational harm, we have a claim called like trade libel, or at the federal level, it's called the Lanham Act, and that protects brands, like business brands, from confusion. So people being confused that you're associated with this particular person's association of you with their product or service, like what you were saying about the CBD gummies or whatever it was. That it's like you have nothing to do with that. That tarnishes your brand, borrowing from your goodwill.
And they've portrayed her in content that she does not do.
That's right.
Repeatedly.
That's right.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that going after that is just like insanely hard. And I think
because it's a scam in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like even a real company.
It's not even real.
Yeah.
That's even crazier because it's not even a real company that's doing it. It's all just a scam at every turn.
Yeah.
Everything, and it's even hard. Like if I go in and I can see like, okay, this is where like I can see the name of the ad, like, or who's posting it on Facebook, and I can go into the ad library, because you can go into Facebook's or Meta's ad library and you can start searching. But it's like, and we've talked about this Reyes before, because you were the one that brought it up, like how they use this IP redirect a lot of times, where you hit the link and then it will basically read like, oh, you're Meta or you're somebody, like, we don't recognize this IP, so we'll let you in. Yep. So sometimes they won't let other people in, and it's a huge ordeal, like huge scam ordeal.
Yeah, and I know we're kind of talking about AI, but again, an issue that we see all the time is just using, if you film with people, right? Let's say you're OnlyFans creator, and then you broke up with your ex, and you were a little fast and loose with, any control mechanisms that you had. Fast and loose is probably not the greatest word to use in that context.
All right, we might have to cut that out. We might get shadow banned on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a phrase we all know what I meant, but they're a little fast and loose with how they do engage in their business of content creation, right? And so somebody might have a copy of your intimate photos or videos, and they leak it, right? You've had exes where relationships go bad, and we get these intakes, and they're horrible stories. You know, my ex, you know, showed his friends, and one of those friends is now selling it, or it's on Pornhub, or like it goes out of control. And sometimes the intellectual property rights aren't enough. And, you know, Crystal, we've talked about this before, but you can actually find out who's behind anonymous posts online, you know, through, if you follow the right legal channels. And sometimes we can find out who posted it, where they are, get their credit card number, and hold them responsible, right? And there are, the good news for your listeners is there are options. You know, it's not easy, but there's recourse for you if that happens to you.
Going back to the AI stuff, I think, like, obviously for I would guess for creators that's the biggest concern, is how we're able to actually effectively handle this, and what is the future going to look like? Like, is Congress working on any type of legislation to address any of this, or there's no hope? I mean, what's the outlook, I guess, kind of?
Yeah, there's this federal statute. I should say it's a bill, House Bill 3106, and it's called the Preventing Deepfakes of Intimate Images Act. And the feds move slow, right? And it's got over 55 co-sponsors, and there's, you know, both sides of the aisle are sort of understanding that, yeah, we need some ability for people to seek remedies when this happens. But
right.
They're slow and they're uninformed. So as of right now, as far as I know, there's not a federal statute that speaks to this issue directly. But like I said, states have, you know, enacted it and criminalized it. And then there's other civil remedies, right? Like we talked about defamation. There's privacy claims you might have. You know, it's just disturbing. Like you said, if you see somebody who's purporting to claim that that's you,
right?
And who's going to know? You now are on the defensive publicly, saying that's not me. Especially when it's intimate stuff or even pornographic in nature, right?
Yeah, I think there's been several times I'll be like, "Hey, I don't look anything like that." Just like FYI.
and it's just like
I'll be like, maybe when I was 20, I looked like that, but not anymore.
Your face attached to it, just like, even if it doesn't look like you, it's just still in people's minds. Like if somebody starts a rumor, even if it's like, you know, put to rest, it's not really true. Like you still see that person and you still think, like it's.
But for me, the bigger thing I've seen, I mean, for me personally, is the use of my content, but they throw another face on there, which I'm sure a main reason for that is to make it harder to detect and remove, right? Because, but the thing is so many people, we have such a wide reach, people recognize even the photo of us with a fake face, or they're like, oh, that's Poindexter's house, or, oh, Annabelle, those are your pictures above your bed, so that must be you. Like so many people recognize it, so we're able to get those down, but I'm sure for tons and tons of people, that's not the case.
Yeah, and the sad part is when you're early in your content creation career and somebody, like, usually there are people who watch or how quickly your Instagram following is growing, and they duplicate your account. I've had this happen to me. I don't know that I've been on your show since this happened, but did I tell you about how somebody duplicated my account and got verified?
No way.
No.
They got verified?
Yeah. These haters. So
on what platform?
On Instagram.
What?
So we went after.
Well, it's well established Meta's the worst. So.
Yeah. We went after me and a group called Baller Busters. If you're on Instagram, you know, they're basically a kind of a consumer protection advocacy. They expose online scams and like these coaches that don't teach you anything and just take
oh my god,
oh good.
Like
all those fitness and life coaches with just full on
scams. You and I both follow Goob. I love Goob, and he does that kind of stuff.
Goob is a good friend of mine, actually.
I love Goob.
He's a very good friend of mine, John Dorsey. He's a great example, right? So he exposes people who Photoshop their images but claim they're natural, like they're natural fitness models, and buy my program, and I'm an affiliate, buy my protein, but they're fake. It's like, look, if you're going to alter your images, do that, but don't claim they're real, and don't claim that you can achieve that body. That's the part that bothers me. Is
the fitness ones are horrible because you have so many women that are so unhappy and they're willing to give any amount of money to these freaking scammers. And if you look at their photos, you're like, oh, I can tell that's Photoshopped because look, the lines are bent and there's all these things. And I'm like, how do people not notice this stuff?
Yeah. And Goob,
I mean, I don't.
Goob is a saint for doing that because he exposed an entire industry where people were like,
awesome.
Dude, I would have never guessed. Like, this woman looks so beautiful and she's working so hard. Every video is of her in the gym doing all these reps. And it's like, dude, it's all made up. You know, it's all controlling your perception.
Like, and he's very factual. Like, he'll draw the lines of like where the wall behind them.
Oh yeah, I love that. They like measure stuff and
they
like, here's the plane.
They get so mad at him, which that I thought, like, because I know sometimes people will get the videos removed from his page and he'll just continue to put them back up, which I love. But you know, I don't know if that falls under defamation because they're scamming people. So I don't know how.
But if it's true, if he's just saying stuff that's true,
So,
I mean,
it's
you can do that. He can do that, right?
Yeah, he can. And one thing about him that I know that most people don't know is he's a very diligent guy. He gets a flood of DMs about people saying, "Oh, bust this scammer," or "I had this bad experience."
Yeah.
But he's not out fishing for content. He has genuine stories that he discovers, and he puts a lot of time into researching and doing this diligence, getting independent facts and verifying as much as he can. But yeah, if he's saying something true, good luck suing him for defamation.
Right. Well, that's like, it reminds me, have you guys ever seen that fake Watchbuster account?
Yes.
It's often like crappy rappers or like those what's the Forex or Forex, whatever, those guys that pretend like they're rich. They'll be like, have on fake paddock or whatever, and he, you know, measures them and he shows all the measurements to show why it's fake, and almost immediately those dudes' Instagrams go away because they have no recourse because that is fake. It is hilarious.
And
I'm like, what are you doing out there pretending like you got on a real watch?
No, it's true. Could you imagine a world where everyone's social media was just authentic content, meaning it was actually you doing your everyday things, you know? And I know you guys talk about this, you know, on your content, right? Like moms, and we're like, this is how our body types are. Like, this is And I think it's great for people to see because we're so used to fake. Like, there's a whole generation of people that all they know is fake, all they know, and they're living their lives as a reflection of falsity. And
they're trying to mimic and look like things that aren't real in the first place.
Well, Annabelle, like I think my favorite story from you is, I think it's a TikTok or it's an Instagram reel where a lady is like putting makeup on, but she already has a filter on her face because you can.
I was like, why are you doing? What is the point? You have on a filter. No one knows what your face looks like. You don't even need makeup if you have a filter.
Like, she puts on lipstick and her lips don't change color.
Exactly. The face is all, it's like got that blur where you can't really see the lines in the nose. And there's been times when I'm like, man, how do you use those video skinny filters? Like, but I honestly, I mean, I definitely edit my photos somewhat, right? I'll smooth out my skin or change the lighting or whatever. But when you're like, that's a full-on skinny filter in your body, and you can tell these fitness people are the worst.
Right, it's like extra snap.
And it's pixelated in certain places. And people, there's this one girl that I sort of was hate following for a while, and she has this dark page on Reddit. Because I was so fascinated because her content was so manipulated, and they will basically slow down her videos and they'll show all the pixelation, and people will call her out and be like, hey, why is your video so pixelated? And she'll be like, oh, it must be bad Wi-Fi. It's like everyone else's videos are fine. It's because it's a skinny filter, and they'll jump around. Like if you watch closely, I mean, it's astonishing. So I'm actually glad I never use that because I would probably be bad at it and people would know, and then I would look ridiculous.
I mean, I know they exist. I have never even like thought of going out and looking at something like that. And I look at that and I think because I think that like our fan base likes the fact that we're real, that some, you know, you can see our wrinkles and you can see like, you know, some of the fat.
Right.
I mean, to me, I'm like, that is
you guys
like,
eat? Wow, that's shocking.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I had, so this is a funny story, and this shows how dumb I was in the beginning of content creation. So I had one of the top all-time posts on a huge subreddit on Reddit. And the caption literally said something like, I had been drinking tequila, which was actually true. Well, so what in the photo, I was in my house in Mexico that has brick on the inside, right? And so I was doing something, and my arm in the picture looked super weird. It wasn't because like my arm was like fat or whatever. It was just some weird thing, and it looked weird.
Yeah.
So me drank some tequila. I'm just gonna pull it in and fix it, right? I fixed my arm, and I post the picture. This freaking picture, one of the top all time on the whole thing, and you can see the bent bricks on the wall from my arm. And it's so and people call me out.
But you owned it.
Most people
you owned it.
And I was like, oh my God, that was ridiculous. I told y'all I've been drinking. Like I did own it. And it was weird because it wasn't like I'd pulled in my waist or something, which would have maybe been more, you could be more critical of that. I just made a dumb photo editing thing more than like, it's not like I tried to make my boobs bigger or something. It was just stupid. But I left it up for a long time because it was one of the top photos, and they don't want you to take them down. But finally I had to take it down because I was like too embarrassed by it, because I was like, I cannot have this out there anymore. And so I still will see people repost it on scam pages sometimes, and I'm so embarrassed. Like, that was a terrible job, guys. I did not use the what's that tool that you move stuff in with? What's it called? I can't even remember.
I don't know.
Adjustment or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so Grace, so what are you seeing like on like type of cases? Like, are you seeing besides the copyright with like Netflix, what other cases are you seeing when it comes to like generative AI?
Yeah, well, definitely has a role in defamation, with people saying that somebody's claiming to say something or be something that they didn't say or do. And I think that's still a great defamation case. Really a lot of, and the scary part is the revenge porn, right? And people deep fake revenge porn, where somebody has taken this tool, and it starts with curiosity, like, oh, I wonder what it would look like if I took these pictures of my ex and did this with them. But then people like to share that stuff for whatever reason. They don't keep it to themselves. They like to share it.
Right.
And it gets out of hand.
Right. You can't just keep that on your phone. Like, why you gotta put it out there and break some laws? Yeah. I don't understand.
Print it out, put it in the magazine by your toilet, whatever you do that's like the old school.
Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah, that's the old school.
But you can enjoy it as long as you want if you just keep it to yourself.
Well,
nobody
so
cares.
Here's the thing. It's not totally true. So if you have content left over, and let's say we had a consensual relationship and you have that content and I now object to it, technically I can force you to delete that, because it.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
But if you're not going to know, if your ex-boyfriend is just sitting at home looking at his phone and not doing anything, then you're not really going to even know or care, right?
Right. True.
Unless they don't do anything with it.
Unless you say, hey, you remember those things that we did and you've got like 10 videos and 20 pictures, could you delete that? And he refuses. I mean, you could probably.
But why would he refuse out loud? He could just say okay, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are people honest about this? I'm just surprised that someone would admit it. Most people would just be like, okay, it's done.
Yeah, done.
And nobody is ever the wiser, as long as you don't.
You can't change. Yeah.
How are you going to distribute it?
Yeah. Well,
you can't prove that.
Well, true, until something happens, and that's usually when I get the phone call, like.
Right.
Oh,
because they have to share it.
Somebody traded their phone in, and guess what was left on their Snapchat?
Who doesn't wipe their phone when they
I'm telling you.
What?
Well, the other problem is. God. The other problem is
people are stupid.
Delete.
Not to go on a tangent, but what we're seeing is you can recover stuff from your phones, from other people's phones, even if it's deleted. There are tools to recover deleted images and text, and it's for a very good reason.
But not if you wipe the phone, right? If you completely reset it, like factory reset.
What the tech nerds would tell you is there's no such thing as anything completely disappearing. There's remnants of data that technically you could piece together. Okay. It's when you delete and then save over it that it's truly gone, right? So if you click delete and you wipe the phone, it's true, it may not be recoverable. But will definitely be true when you start resaving, because the way memory works, from what my tech folks tell me, is there's a space created in the hardware where the software says you can save in that space, but there's something still there. It's not poof, disappeared, right? So, but bottom line, like we're seeing some of that stuff, right? For whatever reason, people still send nudes and racy pictures on Snapchat. I don't have Snapchat. I've never used it. Are people still doing this, guys? Apparently it's still a thing.
They are.
All over the internet. I mean, even Instagram's doing that, right? I mean, and Instagram came out a couple months ago saying, because we want to protect children under 18, we are now going to blur out those pictures and you can click on that. And I'm like, how is that not illegal still? Because they're saying they don't want children, basically anyone under 18 to actually.
It's because they don't actually care about protecting children at all.
Yeah.
But there are, I mean, this is a huge problem. And I see, I mean, we have teenagers. You know how many times I'm driving a bunch of idiot kids and I'm like, guys, I overhear stuff. I'm like, do not ever send pictures of any of your private parts to anyone. Yeah. And don't have anyone else's photos on your phone, because it's literally child porn.
It is.
And you can go to juvie. If a girl knows and you break up and she tells her mom, and I've heard of cases in our community that's happening. So I feel like I'm constantly reminding all these dummies, because I don't know.
I've dealt with
I don't know if other parents are talking about this because maybe they're not as aware.
I've dealt with this exact fact pattern. This is actually something really important to raise awareness of, where there was a girl in another state, let's say it was Atlanta, and the boy was in California. You have the laws of maturity are different in both states, and the ability to consent is different in both states. You have this cross-jurisdictional problem. They're not thinking about it. The kids are texting each other. And the girl, as it turns out, has more liability exposure because she was a little bit older and the dude was under 16. Oh, no. And it was, by definition, child pornography. And
it's a federal case if it's across states, right?
Correct. And so the boy's parents called the girl, like, what are you doing? And you have my son's pictures on that device now, and you guys are responsible. And technically they would be correct. I mean, there's defenses certainly if criminal prosecution would happen. But do you want to be in that? That's a news story. That's a front cover.
Yeah. Like, you have to stop. You have to not do that, period, at all.
And I think where most parents still get it wrong, and it's shocking to me, is, oh, my kid's 11, like they need a phone. No, they don't need a phone. There was a time when phones did not exist. And we still did soccer, cheerleading, football, after school stuff, pick up and drop off, all of that still happened flawlessly. It's easier and there's convenience, but dude, get a phone that doesn't do video or something. Like, get a flip.
Right. Well, and you have to not let them have social media. I didn't do that until they hit high school because, and I still am not happy about it. But for example, a team group chat is on Snapchat. Every team member is on there. So and for a while I still didn't let them join it. But then ultimately you're like, they can't be in the group chat. And I'm like, why do y'all idiots have to be on Snapchat anyway? But I mean,
it's because it disappears.
Yeah, but they should know. At least the kids I drive around all the time know that isn't really disappearing, and you can go to jail.
And the other thing we're seeing, right, is like, if you have another device, picture, video, like how hard is that?
Right.
How hard
They're so dumb. I'm like, I've watched them take a picture of someone else's phone. I'm like, guys, you don't understand someone else can do that. And what I see more than anything in this, I don't mean this in an inflammatory way, but who I see sending pictures is girls sending pictures way more than boys.
Oh, yeah. But also the girls are the ones that are fighting in school more than the boys are too.
Yeah. It's really concerning. So I don't mean to suggest I'm only telling boys this, because I'm telling my daughter this too. Because I see girls, they're just constantly sending pictures of their boobs everywhere. I'm like, what is wrong with these? These girls are like way too young to be doing that.
Yeah. And look, lesson for adults. And I say this and people sometimes laugh. I'm like, the age of the NDA is today. Like 2024 is the year of the NDA. It just is, right? And especially depending on what lifestyle you live. And I've said this to people before, and they're like, well, Rice, you're saying every single person I date, I should have an NDA, or if a guy came up to me with an NDA, I would never date that guy. Well,
I do. You want to hang out with me? We got an NDA. Sorry.
That would be one thing if they're like getting pissy about an NDA. Like, what are you want to send them?
Yeah, I'm literally, protecting myself. Sorry, but
so it's an interesting discussion, right? So Crystal asked, like, what am I seeing? I'm seeing confidential things that should be kept confidential, getting out of hand, and then we have to deal with it in the absence of confidentiality. So if you come to me and you're a creator, or let's say you're not somebody famous, but you care about things going public. You don't have to be a CEO of a publicly traded company or a huge Instagram model to have a concern about how your stuff is going to be used in the private context, right? There's a reason why non-disclosures exist outside of the things we normally think of, and it's because it's control. It's trust. Like, yeah, it's trust, but now it's a verified trust. So that if I say, hey, if our relationship ends, when there's an understanding, it's short term, whatever, then I can force you to delete that and verify to me, right? Somebody asked a question earlier. How do you know that they've deleted it? I can ask you in a contract to send me proof of the deletion, whatever that is. I can tell you a remedy. If something goes public, if you share this, there's liquidated damages. You can force jurisdiction. You can do things to at least control. People should care about that today. They should, because how fast images and videos and text, people say things in text all the time and they regret, and it comes out in discovery and I'm looking at it, right? And there's just too many examples of why non-disclosures should be used more, particularly by creators, and it's just not.
Right.
It's a low.
And I think from my perspective, I feel like it just sort of like gives you a sense of like security, knowing that like, oh, if I disclose something about my business, for example, then you can't go spread that around on the internet or whatever. Like with my physical therapist, for example, I went to him for a while, but then after, I decided I'm going to go for him all the time. He's almost like a therapist. I was like, hey, there's some stuff I'm going to tell you about myself. Can you sign this NDA? He was like, oh yeah, cool. Done. Boom. No problem. And so now, that just allowed me to feel more comfortable. Not that I thought he was ever going to tell anyone, but it's like a sense of security almost. Because I think most good people, when they've done that, they understand there's like a boundary now or something.
So, but when do you bring it up to somebody if you start dating someone? Like, oh, hey, I need you to sign this NDA. Right? Like, you don't want to go on the first date and be like, hey, I have this NDA here. I need you to sign.
Great question. Great question.
Yeah, what's the ideal time for that?
Great question.
Like before you.
So we're now shifting gears into Rice being the relationship expert. Let me go there for a second. No, I'll tell you frankly, because I've advised a lot of different people in a lot of different lifestyles. I've kind of seen two different approaches to this. One is kind of like to do the best analogy. At what point do you discuss your STD check with somebody?
Right.
Oh, it's interesting.
Right.
Okay.
Ideally before you have sex, or is it before you have unprotected sex? That's
like, is it something you talk about as the relationship progresses, or just before it happens? Right. What's the timing on that? That's one approach. Okay, where you say, hey, I think we're at this level, and look, this is just for me. I'd love to do things with our phone and like video and whatever, but this is just really important to me. Are you willing to sign it? If you introduce it like that, I don't think it's as offensive or like, oh my God, like, what are you planning to do? Or no, we can enjoy this and have the same, and it's mutual. It applies to you, it applies to me.
Right.
It's a comfort factor. That's one way. The second way is, I mean, look, there's some people who they're just running through town. I don't know how else to say it. They are just doing all kinds of hookups and short term, and it's an understanding. And if you're that kind of person, you should do the same thing too. You should be telling people, if all you're doing is let me say it this way, the more electronic fingerprints you leave, sexting, whatever it is that's going on, the more of that, the more you need to have a frank conversation with that partner of yours about this.
The conversation, the same as like, say, about STDs, for example, those conversations, you shouldn't feel the need to be like shy or feel awkward or embarrassed. Like if we're adults and we're going to have sex, we should talk about that, because nobody wants STDs, for example.
That's the problem, is like nobody's communicating. They're just
right.
Like,
and why not? Like, I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to talk about any of that stuff, because I want to have like an open functioning situation, whatever the situation is. And it just seems like easy. And then you don't have to worry. Like, why are we shy and embarrassed to be open? But most people are, I think, are still, people aren't comfortable being as frank as like I might be, and I did have a guy, when I asked about NDA, he got really weird. I was like, that's cool. I totally understand if you don't want to do it, but it's just something I need for myself to feel comfortable. So this isn't going to work. And then he's like, but I'm like, no, it's really okay. I'm not trying to pressure you and change your mind, but here's my boundary and what I need.
How soon into the relationship did you talk about the NDA?
honestly, for me, before we have sex.
Yeah.
Because what I don't want is, I'm sort of this weird public space. I don't need somebody going out there and spreading my business.
100%.
I mean, they can do it, but and it just makes me feel more comfortable, because really, more than anything, I'm not worried about certain types of things that some people might worry about as much. Like, as someone who's never been on the internet is going to be way more worried about, say, revenge porn than I might be. Not that it's acceptable, but you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
What I'm worried about is, I say something about my business or my friends, use my friends' real names or something, and I don't want them. I'm protecting myself in all those ways.
See,
do you know not that I'm not concerned about non-consensual images, but I want to protect all of us. Like, if they know my kids' names, I don't want my kids' names on the internet.
You nailed it. It's outside of just the purely sexual stuff. And sometimes when I say it, it sounds like it's only about that, and that's a big part of it. But like you said, you might have small talk.
That's, for me, that's really the thing, because like, people know Crystal's real name. It's been out there by the media for a long time, but most people don't know mine or Triss's, and they don't know
or where you live,
where our kids school, or their names, or where we live. And so that information to me, and I think when you're framing it like that, like, say, a new potential partner for me is going to understand that way more than me acting like, oh, I'm afraid you're going to take nudes of me and share them or something. I'm like, hey, there's just all this stuff that I need to. And so it's really not as awkward for me to even talk about, I don't think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know people, it's the same as people, like, when they hear a prenup, they just often have a visceral reaction, and it's negative. When it's like, no, a proper prenup should protect everyone and make sure everyone's taken care of, and that there's just not questions, and no one has to stress or worry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, to me, it just makes sense, but I get why it's emotional for some people.
I don't know. To me, that seems a little bit of a red flag if you look through and it's like balanced, and you're just like, no, I want to be able to take money or something. That seems very
what do you think? So you wouldn't, if a guy was interested, and let's say you've been dating, you've gone on, some dates, and there's sexual tension, and he just says, listen, I would be comfortable if, like, as we progress, if you would agree to this and it's mutual, what would you say?
I mean, are you saying, like, me sign an NDA?
Yeah.
I would have no problem signing it. Why?
No,
like,
but we're educated about it.
Yeah, like, I don't have any intentions to go spread anybody's, like,
right. We're not going to be offended in the way that a lot of women might be, because we understand. And you know what? If I was going to get married, I would 100%, even if the guy also had money, there would 100% be a prenup. And it doesn't matter who the guy is. It's not about not trusting a guy. It's about, no, I have children. I'm going to protect my own self, my assets, and my family. And that, to me, is just rational.
I think people in this space, content creators, need to be more mindful about formalities in business. That's just what it is. I mean,
absolutely.
You're promoting
There's a huge
brand.
void, and people just don't know.
Everything you do is your brand, publicly and privately, and stuff comes out that you want to keep private, even if it's not something that's illegal, right? It's just how you live your life. Something they saw. You have a get together at your house, and you're doing things that you wouldn't want the general public to know. There are ways to protect that. Right. We're in the era of people video recording and sharing things left and right. I mean, let's be frank. So that's just the way you do it. And it's funny because we're okay with, have you guys ever gone to a comedy show or a concert where they give you those little pouches that are magnetized for your phone so you can't bring it in?
Oh,
but I've heard about the places like that where they don't want certain artists, certain comedians, people do that. I've heard of it. I've never been to one though.
Yeah, maybe Crystal, you've seen this. We were just talking about it's continuing the NDA conversation, and about how there's things that as a creator you want to protect the general public from, even as an entrepreneur. And I was saying, nowadays people are more comfortable. Like, if you go to a concert, have you ever had to put your phone in one of those magnetic pouches?
Yeah. We have one here at the house.
Yeah, right. That's smart. So the reason why,
in the beginning, it's like, oh, you want to come after Dexter's house?
You have to remember you have to remember that my husband's also a physicist, so he's just like, ooh, this is really cool. It's a what's it called? I forgot. It's Faraday bag. Yeah.
So there's two kinds. One's a Faraday bag. The other one is literally a pouch so that you can't use your phone during a live performance. You can't access it.
Right, and it can't be opened until the end.
100%. It goes in a bag. It's magnetically, locked, and you have it physically, but you can't. There's no question of taking your phone out and recording it. And I went to, I think it was Dave Chappelle, one of his shows that was his Netflix special. Or, you go to these places, they're protecting their intellectual property. That's smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we don't do that.
And I hate when you're at a show and all you see is a bunch of freaking phones out.
Right. Nobody wants
your video's going to suck anyway. If you want good video, it'll turn up later. But your video is going to be terrible.
Nobody's watching your recorded concert videos.
Or fireworks. Your fireworks videos suck too. Just watch the fireworks. Just watch them.
Yeah.
Enjoy them.
No, I really believe, going back to Instagram and social media, and I was telling you this happened to me where somebody got, speaking of fakes, so we went after somebody, they didn't like what I was saying. They took my picture at the time, my profile picture. They took my first grid, right? Like the first 6 images, copied them verbatim, set up a page, and here's what they did. It's sinister. They took my real name, Rais Muhammad, / and then they put a fake, actually they used their real name. So using that / the bots that detect, whether somebody's an imposter, they don't pick that up. And so it said Rais Muhammad and then another name. And so the dude submitted a verification check using his real identity that had the suffix of the name, and it got verified. And then he reported my account as the imposter. My account went down for 4 weeks. Yeah.
What?
And it was so bad.
Hell no.
It was so bad. You want to hear a crazy story? The guy who did that to my account had an inside at Meta who he paid under the table to appeal it and automatically suppress the appeal. So now I was
what
locked.
I say, Meta's the worst.
Now
absolutely the worst.
So how did you get this result?
Was it your account verified also?
My account got verified after the fact. That was a mistake.
Okay.
It was a mistake. I should have verified my account, but I'm I wasn't doing content as hardcore at the time. But so I had to do the same thing. I had to find somebody inside Meta to understand, dude, this is really me. I'm a lawyer. Here's my law firm. This person is a scammer.
Did you have to file some kind of suit against them?
I didn't. I probably could have.
Arbitration or anything?
I probably could have. It had to go through an internal process, and eventually it got restored, and they shut that guy's account down. But this happened.
The reason I was asking is because it's hard to do anything with Meta. There's almost no way to get to a person unless you actually file some kind of suit against them, basically.
Yeah.
Most of the time, any appeals don't really go anywhere. It's literally just you submit it and then it's not real. Do you know what I mean?
It doesn't even, you don't even get if you appeal something, sometimes you don't even get a response back that it actually was filed. But
because it just disappears.
Well, my problem I have with Meta now is that I have with trademarks and stuff, they'll come back and be like, well, we don't see that they're selling any services or using your trademark to sell anything. And I'm like, my trademark is for entertainment purposes. It's not for a sale of something. So I'm like, and by law, you still have to take it down. And I mean, sometimes they'll just shut the case, and they won't even let me respond. Other times, if I can respond back, they'll actually take it down. It's a hit or miss on who you actually go and you talk to.
You bring up another really important issue that we deal with that I don't think there's enough education on, which is people get discouraged when things happen to them and it's anonymous. So I'm going to go into the black hole of who's harassing me or who put up this account. And what everyone needs to hear is there are options. If you have the facts, if you have the facts, especially if it's defamation, and we deal with this every day. If somebody is anonymously accusing you of something egregious, false, assault, for example, or some other, especially criminal conduct, there is a way to sue and subpoena Meta, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or even TikTok, and find out at least what information they have about that account. And sometimes the information's qualitative, like a phone number that was used to verify the fake account or the harassing account.
So did you actually go after this imposter in real life or no?
We did a series about this guy who was a scammer, and that guy hired this dude. I didn't end up going because that guy was in Turkey, as it turns out. He was overseas.
Right.
Where a lot
usually
of
often they are, so you often don't have a recourse in the first place.
Right. Your only real option is just to get your account back. You're not chasing those people overseas. But the people who hired them here, if you can get to the bottom of that, certainly that's worth it. But now there's huge extortion schemes going on where these people at Meta who are getting paid under the table to pull your account, keep it private or ban it, and then say, oh, you want your account? Give me 50 grand.
Dude, we know all about this because we've seen this happen with people. When my account was removed, there was a lot of really fishy stuff going on. I mean, I sued Meta, right? And we had arbitration that lasted like a year.
That's right.
And there, I mean, and one of the things that we were seeking in discovery is because we want to see about all these people that have been paid off. And, there's cases that are going on now where they're actually named individuals at Meta who are involved in all these schemes, right? So, I mean, it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Or the fact that, like, when they took your account down, there were hundreds of fake accounts of hers that they would not even take down. And I'm like, how is this even...
For over a year, they wouldn't remove a single account, even though DMCA notices were filed. Finally, when the case got an arbiter, is it arbiter or arbitrator assigned?
Both are technically okay. Yeah.
Okay. Then they started actually responding to the DMCA notice. Because at first you think like, well, this can't really be like a coordinated effort. But it absolutely was. Because at some point, then my account returned. It was shadow banned, but it returned. And they're like, here's your account back. We can drop the case now. When they realized we kind of had a case. And I was like, well, it's useless because it's shadow banned. You gave it back. So obviously I'm not really breaking any rules because you're willing to give it back.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, never mind. We'll take it away again then. But the whole thing is, it was just a huge, there's a lot of scammers and crappy people that work there. There's a lot of criminal activities going on within the company.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait for it to be exposed. I cannot wait.
It's a gigantic problem. It's a growing problem. And people need to be aware of like at least what their options are and be prepared for that, have backup accounts. When stuff looks fishy, how do you respond to it? It's really hard. It's really hard. And I wish Meta would dedicate a department just for this. Like
they don't care.
It's at a large scale, right? And if I'm Meta, I'm executive at Meta, I'm like, we're an accomplice to fraud. We know it's happening. It's being reported. We're not doing anything about it. I'm waiting for the next...
Because it's in their benefit. Right. They don't want people to know about all the fake... They want those fake accounts on the platform because that's how they get more money from ads.
Well, that's true.
They're defrauding their investors actively and willfully.
And I think that's actually a bigger case. And I'm waiting for... And I think there's a couple of cases going on. I think there's one out of Texas. Because if you are like... If I'm... I don't know... a Nike brand and I go and I want to buy an ad on Meta, and for some reason like Meta's like, oh yeah, come buy it, we have all these people, this whole like sample size of like, I don't know, we'll say, or their marketing team's like, if you put your ad there, there's
it's going to be served
5 million people,
right?
But then you realize, but a percentage of those people are just fake accounts that exist.
Right.
So now you basically just sold me on that I'm going to have this reach of this, but basically a majority, or there's some percentage of
accounts
these
are
accounts are
fake. It's the same thing.
I mean, that should be some type of like, they should be being sued for
technically
false advertisement. I guess
they're defrauding their investors.
Technically, I would argue that technically it's a fraud. If you have knowledge of it and you haven't done anything, it's fraud. It's like what happened with Ashley Madison. It was the same thing where they're like, when they investigated it, and they're like, dude, the proportion of dudes to women, and then you add in all the fake accounts.
Yeah,
there were bots pretending to be real girls, and they're like, oh well, that was that wasn't really us. I'm like, dude, come on,
No, because most of the time, we tell men, even on normal people dating apps, a huge percentage of the profiles are fake. I don't know what the percentage is, but I would guess it's a huge percentage.
Yeah,
and that just is prevalent everywhere. Like there's no real people, but so when you're selling ads, how are you getting away with this? And the same with Meta, knowing that their platform we don't want to have any like racy pictures, but we're going to let drug traffickers run their whole organization in Meta DMs and Instagram DMs. We're going to have human trafficking in our DMs, like those things, and they know about it. It's not like they don't know. And once you know, you should be held liable for it. You can't just hide behind Section 230 when there's organized crime happening on your platform and you know about it.
Yeah.
Well, they do. But anyways, I think what we need,
sorry,
what I would like to see is why isn't everyone just verified?
They have the capability to do it.
Well,
like the technology's there to just have everyone on the platform verified. And then and if you have a real business, you can have an account in your business name. Why can't, because they don't have an interest in doing that, because they can't defraud people and inflate their numbers if everyone's verified.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean,
that's why.
It's a great point. I mean, it is true. For every real account, I don't know how many fake accounts there are, but I get trolled by bots all day long. I'm sure you guys do. I mean, massively.
Oh yeah.
And then they're in your DMs, and then there's scams. Like people get scammed. You know what I've seen a lot of. I should also tell you about this, is something you guys have dealt with, but even lawyers are dealing with that come to me, and that is people who have a big presence, lawyer, content creator, doctor, whoever. Somebody recreates their account and then scams them with some service or fee for whatever, fill in the blank. I had a recent sort of sprint of immigration lawyers, right, where people were imitating their page and then asking for retainers, saying, oh, your account is, and you say, well, how do you know who my clients are? Who are their followers? They're just guessing.
Right.
They're guessing. And
it's just the like Nigerian romance scam just translated into other industries. I mean, there's scam rings that do all this stuff. They just constantly creating accounts and scamming people.
The Nigerian prince family tree has grown quite a bit now.
Yeah.
And his grandkids are scamming people.
They really, I mean, they just they're very creative in their scams, I have to say. I mean, they're very effective.
It's the message to everyone is how fake things online are. You just have to assume there's some false point. It's sad, but that's where we are right now until there's a recorrection. Just assume there's a lot of salt with that. You're going to have to figure out, and the authentic people, there's amazing, you guys are authentic. There's other amazing, fantastic, authentic people who are authors and well known. They didn't gain their celebrity from Instagram. They were something and then came to the platform, right? Yeah. There are a lot of people like that. And even they get scammed. But it's just the warning to everyone is be aware that this can happen to you. You can also become one of these people, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And we tell people all the time, you shouldn't just believe anything you see. Like, that's
like my entire practice is about, outside of like the corporate work that I do, my internet practice is almost entirely about believability. It's really interesting.
Right.
That's where we've come.
It's wild. And the example I give guys all the time, I'll say, my one celebrity crush in my life was LL Cool J when I was younger. If I got a DM on a social media from LL Cool J, do you think I would really just believe it was automatically him, like immediately? No, I would go make sure it's really him. If it's an account with his pictures and 37 followers, I'm not going to think that's really him contacting me. Come on.
Well,
but my default is to assume, well, that's probably not real. Let's go see.
What I was afraid of when it happened to me was people might actually believe that's me. Right. And because it was starting to regain followers. And I'm like, who is this guy DMing?
Right.
Like, I don't know what they're saying. Like, oh, I'm Rais. You're beautiful. Give me your phone number. Or
welcome to our world, buddy. There's we get yelled at every day because we're like, you took I'm like, it really wasn't me. Seriously.
Yeah.
That is funny. Okay, well, we need to wrap this up so we can get back and do some legal stuff.
He needs his billable hours now,
right? Plenty of people pulling the line.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, let's do this again because last time we did a lot of what was it? It was defamation, right? We talked about that, some copyright. We did a little copyright today, some AI stuff, and then we'll have to find something else to do.
We love chatting with you because
yes,
I love
know.
learning about. There's a lot of stuff we don't know about, and it's really informative. I mean, even for just us personally. And also all of our followers.
I always enjoy our conversations. There's so many real world practical things that people just need to be aware of that you don't need to wait until some gigantic legal thing happens. Like, get educated, like understand what it's about, and happy to always chat with you guys.
Don't trust people. Don't send
nudes. And the thing is,
two takeaways.
Grace, I mean, I think you do a really good job of breaking down, the law in a way that people can understand it. And I think a lot of us who are not lawyers or attorneys, the law is so it's kind of confusing. If I look at like Section 230, I'm like, what is it really saying? Like, you really dig into it, because I don't understand a lot of the definitions behind some of the words, because it's a lot of legal,
mumbo jumbo.
And you're an intelligent person and you're educated. Imagine somebody just reading this and trying to take direction from it. It doesn't work like that. Plus, there's all this bad information online too. So
also
exactly.
It's insane. So anyways, thank you so much for spending some time with us and talking about AI. I mean, there's so much I want to talk to you about. So
I know. I hope we didn't jump all over the place too much. I always have so many questions.
No, this was good.
It's fun that way. It's fun. All right. So you can follow us at irrationalmoms.com. You can find us at Spotify, Apple, and leave a comment. And if you need to speak to Rais, we will put his handle up, and you guys you can reach out to him, and we'll put his website up too. So
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rais.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.